Goat is made to operate outside of God. But human beings are made to operate ultimately only by the presence of God. And that's why the Bible says in Psalm 8, Lord, what is man that you esteem him so much? And he said, Lord, you have given so much to man. You have hidden your glory in him. You have made him a little less than the angels. You have given him dominion over the works of your hands, over the birds of the sky, over the beasts of forest. We are wonderfully and powerfully made because we carry the glory of God. And that's what the Bible says in 2 Corinthians 4 verse 7. It says, but we have this treasure in earthen vessels. There's a treasure in us. We, the human beings, the body is a vessel that is carrying this mighty greatness of God in our life. The greatest and the worst mistake that Adam made was to leave the presence of God. When he lost the presence of God, everything began to depreciate, including himself. He began to depreciate. Death came. Trouble came. Suffering came. Difficulties came because he lost. And when God came in search of him, the Bible says, he heard the voice of God walking in the garden, and he went to hide. Went to hide from the presence of God. And God was busy calling on him. Adam, where art thou? Adam, where art thou? Adam said, I heard thy voice. I was afraid, so I hid. That kind of statement was strange to God. And God, because you are not supposed to hide from God. You are a replica of God. You are an extension of God. Why are you hiding? And God said, who told you that you are naked? Who told you? Because that language is not the language of heaven. It's not the language of Zion. For you to say you are naked. You are not supposed to be. God did not make you naked. So how come? Have you interacted with strange beings? Have you gone to a strange land? What is wrong with you? That was when Adam began to explain himself. Because God, our habitat, perpetual habitat, is the presence of God. And when you see anyone who is in the presence of God, I tell you, that is like a person having treasure. He has nothing to worry about. So these men understood the power of the presence of God, because right there on the journey, they had the effect of that presence of God. While Jesus joined them, he began to interact with them. All of a sudden, a stranger came in the midst and began to question them, and they were answering. And then while the stranger began to educate them, something began to happen in them. They were no longer the same person. Although they were living because they were losing their faith, they were already operating on the foundation of doubt. Because the person they thought was the Messiah had been conquered, had died, and so they felt disappointed. They were going back to their old occupations. But when the master came in and began to interact with them, he took over their whole system. I tell you, the presence of God takes over your whole life. It takes over your physical life, takes over your spiritual life, takes over your business. If the presence of God does not flow into everything you do, that means you have not really encountered him. And so when the stranger per se got to where they were going, he made as if he wanted to leave them, but they had encountered something that they could no longer stay without him. They began to feel vulnerable. In other words, if you leave us, we will die. That is the kind of passion that brings the presence of God to you. When you tell God, Lord, I have no life outside of you. Cut off from you, the Bible says there's nothing. There's nothing we can do. Everything you think you can do by your human capacity is meaningless. Does not glorify God if God is not involved. If God is not involved in that which you do, it's a waste of time. It is with time that you will discover that you have wasted your time. You may not know now. You think that your wisdom is enough. You think that your intelligence is enough. You think that your connections are enough. But I tell you, if God is absent, all of those things are darkness. You will soon come to know that you have wasted your time. It is when you come and begin to operate under the influence of God, everything you do amounts to something in Zion. And it begins to accumulate. That means in the next 5 years, what you did today will also be accounted for, because it is part of the foundation that have brought you to where you are. But if you are walking outside of the presence of God, for God to begin to take over that life, He will have to demolish. He has to demolish everything you think you have acquired. Stay with us, Lord. That's the prayer for today. That's the cry of desperation. That's the cry of passion. A person who knows what he was created to achieve in this world. A person who understood the manual for their life, the blueprint of their existence. The person will cry and say, Lord, stay with us. Moses understood this. And so when he went to God in Exodus chapter 33, verse 15, he said, Lord, if your presence does not go with us, lead us not further. In other words, I treasure your presence more than everything, more than money, more than friendship. Take away everything, but keep yourself. Take away everything. Take away money. Take away cars. Take away connection. But Lord, don't leave me. That is the highest thing that I can ever. That's the greatest joy that I have. The joy of knowing Him. And St. Paul says in Philippians chapter 3, he says, I want that I may know Him. I may know Him and the power of His resurrection. That was what he was laboring for. He was not laboring for qualification, educational qualifications, although it is good. He was not laboring for food, although it is good. He was not laboring for any kind of material attainment or achievement, although those things are good. To buy land, good. Build a house, good. Fly abroad, good. Those things are good. But his major enterprise and desire was to know Him and the power of His resurrection. Stay with us, Lord. May God stay with us today.
Amen.
Not just today, but the whole of our life. May we break into the presence of God.
Amen.
To the extent that when we come out, the people will see the reflection of the glory of God in our lives. Stay with us, Lord. And so, when these people, because they had experienced the power of God, the two things that were mentioned that made them to place this request was, first of all, because while He was speaking to them, the word was burning in their hearts. There was an effect, immediate effect. The frequency and the atmosphere of their spirit changed immediately. They didn't want to go anywhere else but to remain where this source of energy was. It was a transformation, immediate transformation that took place when the Lord interacted with them. So because of that, they didn't want to allow Him to go. And then the second thing was because the night was so close. Darkness was so close. How can I face this darkness alone? How can I face the darkness in my family? How can I face the darkness in my business? If you don't know, don't be too naive to think that people love you. Don't be too naive. Even people who come and congratulate you and laugh at you, or laugh with you, and gist with you, it is not all of them that love you. To believe that everybody loves you, that you are loved, therefore no evil will happen to you, is to be too naive. Is to be ignorant of what the Bible says. That you should not be ignorant of the devices of the enemies. So there are powers of darkness around us, in homes, in families. You see a good person who wants to be good to his people, to the environment, who wants to be charitable, who is a philanthropy. All of a sudden the person dies at a very young age. And you're wondering why. Is it that people don't like good things? It is because the powers of darkness are active. Satan is alive. Darkness is around the corner. And the only way to survive darkness is to say, Lord, stay with us. Stay with me, because it's only in you that I can conquer darkness. I am not able, I am not sufficient, I don't have sufficient energy to withstand the looming darkness around the environment. I don't have what it takes to confront the darkness that come after my family. By my power, by my intelligence, I cannot survive. I don't have what it takes to secure a good job in the present situation of Nigeria. I cannot. I only need the grace of God to survive. Stay with us, Lord. Darkness is everywhere.